right, let's get into the second episode. Now, I watch VPR through Peacock, and Peacock airs the after show right after the episode. I'm not sure if that's how it's done with cable too, or if it's only Peacock exclusive, but I'm going to be talking about both because in the after show, they give more like insight into what was going on in the episode or what was going on at that time. So I think it's very helpful to fully understand everything that's going on. So I truly still can't get over how messy Ariana's room is. She has clothes literally everywhere. And I'm assuming it's because she's booked and busy and probably isn't even there half the time. But it's a lot. It's like, does it not fit in your closet or what is going on? It would give me anxiety to be in that room. I'm assuming that Tom's room is the guest room. We actually get to see him in this episode because in the last one, I guess he was still filming that reality boot camp show. I also don't get why they have this picture that's somewhere in the house. I don't know where it is, but it's a huge picture of Ariana and Tom. And I'm like, I wonder if they kept that up for just the show or if they actually still have that up in the house, because it's kind of like at this point, why isn't it taken down? Now, he has an assistant, and I was kind of like, I don't understand why he has an assistant. Like, why is he so busy that he needs an assistant? But then I thought maybe, I don't know if he's always had one or maybe he got one when this whole situation went down, because that is how apparently he and Ariana communicate with each other. He wants to have a party for his birthday, and I don't know why in his right mind he would think that having a birthday party at the house would be a good idea, the house that he shares with Ariana. But he's so like, he's talking to his assistant. I think her name is Anne. And he's like, yeah, you know what? Ariana's more than welcome to come if she wants. And I'm like, I can't tell if he's being cynical or he's really that delusional that he thinks that Ariana would agree to come to his birthday party at her own house. The assistant actually brings it up to Ariana, and Ariana's like, immediately no. She's just like, that's very disrespectful. It's inappropriate. And she's like, if there are people here making a lot of noise, I'm going to call the cops, which I thought was a very Karen move of her. But I mean, I get her. I get her, but it's just kind of like, okay, you don't have to do all of that. Tom does sprinkle in there that he's still in love with Raquel while he's talking to his friend. And he still very much wants to make it work. I guess Raquel at this time, she's not on the show anymore, but she was at that facility working on her mental health and whatnot. So it seems like they haven't had much contact. Now I'm going to get into the after show to talk more about what I just went over, basically what we saw in the show. So Ariana's very much like, I guess, you know, we both own the home. There's no rules when you both own a home. But she's like, in my opinion, it's kind of like outrageous that he's the one that wrecked this home. He's the one that blew up all our lives. And he thinks it's a good idea to have a birthday party here. She's like, any person with common sense would kind of be like, hey, let me not be, you know, like selfish in this moment. It's not the right time. And I think, while I totally agree with her, obviously, I think she's giving him too much credit, because it's like, you should know the person that you're with now, right? Now that everything has happened. And even before then, you knew the kind of person he was to an extent. And you're giving him too much credit. You can't expect him to think about you in this situation. You know, Tom has proven to be very much about himself. And it's like, that's kind of on you, Ariana, to think that he would actually think about you in this situation and have some empathy to what is going on, everything he caused. Like, I get her, but it's also like, that's a little delusional, Ariana. Like, you know the kind of person he is, and this is to be expected from him. Lala makes a valid point. Again, I'm talking about the after show right now. She's like, you know, this whole situation, like, it's stupid. It's also his home. He's allowed to have a party. Period. I do agree with Lala. You know, throughout the whole thing, I found myself like very much agreeing with Ariana and sympathizing with her, but also agreeing with everything Lala was saying. And she says, girl, he was fucking your friend in the house. Having a little party ain't shit. And I'm like, she has a point. She definitely has a point. Like, he was doing all of this, like having a little party, like let him be, like it is what it is. I love Lala, honestly. Like I think she means well, but she's just so herself that she just doesn't care how she comes off. So I feel like Schwartz in this scene, again talking about the after show, was kind of doing a lot of what he was doing on Nick Viall's podcast. I don't know if anyone watched that, but he was very much in that podcast. Nick had both of the Toms on, and obviously they touched on Scandal and all of that. And he was very much like writing for his best friend, because Sandoval would say something and then Schwartz would like basically like say like, I think what you mean is, or he means this, or like trying to explain whatever it is that Sandoval said so that it doesn't come off wrong. And I wasn't mad at it, because I'm like, at the end of the day, you've stood by your friend. You've shown that that's your friend and you're going to stick beside him. We all need a friend like that, even when we've totally fucked up. But it shows me that Schwartz is actually a lot like smarter and more aware than what I thought while he was dating Katie, because I had some opinions about him, and you know, I still do, but I do think he's funny, and he clearly knows. And he's clearly way more self-aware than Sandoval is. But Schwartz is like, I think it kind of, your relationship, what caused friction in it was the fact that you were such a night owl and, you know, always wanted to be out and stuff. And Ariana was like the opposite. She was a homebody. And that can definitely cause friction in a relationship. Like, I am definitely more of a homebody. I would not want my man out constantly partying. If that was the situation, we would have a serious problem. I'm okay with you doing it every now and then, but it seems like Sandoval, even before the Sandoval thing happened, we knew that was what he liked to do. So yeah, we'd have a serious problem. That would, Schwartz has a point, that would definitely cause friction in a relationship. Sandoval goes into like, you know, how like he would be having a good day and it would piss her off. And I think a lot of these things is just like, I think we need more context. Like, I think he constantly, since everything happened, has tried to put excuses after excuses and made Ariana seem like she didn't care about him, like she was done with him, like, and all of these things. And I don't think that was quite the case. But he talks about the whole mushroom thing. I remember in the last season when all of this blew up, he was kind of like, oh, you know, she never replaced the batteries and she never wanted to do mushrooms and stuff. And he talks about how like she became boring, how when they first met, she was all of these things. And it's like, yeah, dude, because people grow. Like, you're not going to stay the same person you were 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. People grow and they evolve, and that's what you should want. You should not want to be the same person that you were even a year ago. So, and he's talking about the mushrooms, and Schwartz is like, okay, let me step in here. Like, it was never about the drinking or the mushroom. It's just that you wanted to create new memories with her. And sounds like, yeah, you know. And there goes Schwartz, like, trying to explain things further, because he's like, I don't want my friend to look bad. Okay, so now back to the show. The scene with Lala and Ariana, they go get like these little drinks. You know, Ariana fills in Lala about the whole party thing, and she's kind of like, well, it's his house too. You know, he's allowed to have a party in his house. And Ariana's like, well, yeah, but I'm going to call the cops. And she's like, why would you do that? Like, why can't you just, you know, let him have a little thing and then tell them, okay, you want to have a thing, have it, but have everyone being gone by a certain time. And I think Ariana actually agreed to that. I think that's what they eventually ended up doing. And she's kind of coming down on her, like it would just be easier to move out. And it's interesting because their dynamic in this scene is very much like Lala. It's clear that she would have handled things totally different than what Ariana's doing. So their interaction is kind of like Lala's firm in what she's saying, but so is Ariana. Like, Ariana's not backing down. And I was like, I like that dynamic. I like when friends can not necessarily agree and actually speak what's on their mind without having to worry about hurting the other person's feelings. Lala's like, wouldn't it just be easier to move out? And she's like, yeah, sure, when the house is sold. And she's like, you're not understanding that he is actually getting off on this whole situation, on making you more miserable with the whole living situation. And she tells her that Tom does want her by Tom does want to buy her out. I guess he did make an offer, but she's like not willing to accept it. And I guess her thing is like, you broke this home. You fucked all of this up. You don't get to do that and still get to keep the house. Because Tom, I guess, put an offer in. He wants to be able to keep the house and live in it. And she's like, F you. You're not going to do that. I think for her, it's like, we need to sell the house. Like, I don't want you to keep it. And I get that. I totally get that. I'd be kind of frustrated too, because it's like, you effed up my life and now you want to keep the house that we built together, like all of these memories and whatever. But I also get like, while I do get Ariana, I totally get Lala's points. And I don't know that I'd have the energy. Like, I think Ariana's very firm and she's very like, F you, like, I'm going to make your life hard and I'm not gonna give in to anything like you say or do and all of these things. And I just feel like she has every right to do that, but it's also super draining because it's like, at this point, if you're not going to take the offer he gives you and he doesn't move out and then you don't move out, so what? You're going to be doing this for the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, it doesn't make much sense. That's going to take a toll on you and on your mental health. Someone is going to have to budge regardless. Someone is going to have to throw in the towel. I think if I was Ariana, I think I could be two ways. Either do exactly what Ariana is doing or be like, I don't have the mental capacity to even do all of this. And here, you want the house? Fine. Give me the 2 point whatever million you threw in for the offer. He said it on Nick Viall's podcast. I don't remember. I'll take the offer. Like, you get to keep the effing house. Like, it is what it is. I'm going to move on with my life because that shit will drain you. So I think eventually it's going to get to that. Who knows what they're going to do. But they do start talking about her new boyfriend, Dan. We've seen a little bit of him. I've seen plenty of him on Instagram. Their relationship is I don't know how I feel about their relationship, just because I'm very much a person that feels like if you get out of a long-term relationship in the very traumatic way in which her relationship ended, even if it didn't end traumatically, I think you should give yourself space and time. And she met him, she said 10, 11 days after, and they've pretty much been together since. So what works for her works for her. But I do think it's not the healthiest way, but I don't know. Hopefully it works out for her. She does say that she's now changed her mind about starting a family, that he's made her change her mind, and that she never saw that with like Sandoval, because with Sandoval she was very firm and like no kids. Having the right person around you will do that. With his parting ways and all of that, I'm just kind of like, why would she want to have a kid with you so that she can have a newborn baby to take care of, but still have to take care of a grown-ass man and have all the responsibilities fall on her? She did say that with Dan, she feels like they could have a 50-50 like relationship when it comes to parenting, which is obviously what you want. Or she said, maybe there's a time where I can only give 10%, but I know that he'll give that 90%. And that's like, when she said that, I was like, okay, like, that's super important, right? Like, I don't have kids, but scares me to think about having kids and having all the responsibilities fall on me. And that's what happens with most mothers, unfortunately. And that is not a reality that I'm ready to face. So I think having a partner that it's like, okay, I don't have the energy for it today. I need you to give more. And she knows that she can depend on that is great. He's 40 with no kids. I think that's a win, hopefully. It's either a win or a red flag. Okay, now in the after show, we see James. James is kind of like defending Ariana in the situation because he's like, it's her house. Like, she can stay there. She doesn't need to leave. I think Lala feels very firmly about this because when her relationship ended, she's like the very next day, Sheena says it, she's like the very next day, Lala had grabbed her baby and left. And it's kind of like, I guess they're trying to make it, like, she's trying to make the point of like, I had a kid and I bounced the very next day. You don't even have a kid and you're still staying there. And to Ariana's point, it's like, well, Lala that wasn't her house. It was Randall's house. And this is Ariana's house. It's also Tom's house. Lala, I guess, is saying like, don't use the excuse. I guess at some point Ariana made the excuse of not leaving because she couldn't afford it. And she's like, don't make the excuse of not leaving because you can't afford it, because I mean, you're booked and busy. You have money. And Ariana's kind of like, this is the biggest like investment that I've made. I've worked my whole life for this moment, to be a homeowner. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of money. But I am going to call Ariana out on that, because it's kind of like, she's like, has anyone heard of how like expensive the rent in LA is? And I guess she didn't touch on how much Katie is necessarily spending for her rent in her apartment. But she's like, the rent is just, it's just high, and I'm not going to do that with like a dog and a cat. And it's like, you can do it. If I can do it, and I'm not making remotely close to anything Ariana is making, and I have 3 dogs in a 1-bedroom apartment, Ariana, you can do it. And we both live in California. I'm not in LA, I'm in the Bay Area, but still, it's expensive in California, okay, no matter where you go. She does have a point. I do give it to her. However, don't go live in a luxury ass place that's going to cost you $6,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't do that either. But there is affordable places. You can get a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, however many rooms you feel you need. I think maybe a 2-bedroom, because she probably has a lot of things. I don't know. The whole money situation, Ariana was kind of trying to say, yeah, like it's expensive and all of these things. And it's like, yes, it is expensive, but you have the budget. Like, I don't think it's fair to say it's because of the money, because it's definitely not. I think it's very much a prideful thing. And she's like, this is my house. I shouldn't have to leave because of what you did. And it's okay to say that. Lala does make a good point, because she's like, I think her thing was like, every time that I tried to question why Ariana's still in that situation, like I get a lot of backlash for it. And I think it's going to happen more throughout the season, because I think Lala's the one that's kind of like calling her out on all that. Her thing is like, I'm not trying to be a bad friend. I'm trying to have my friend be at a peaceful state. Like, she's like, I want you in a good headspace. When you come home, you're coming to your safe space. But for Ariana, it's like she's coming home to his dirty dishes. She's coming home to his energy. And that's a very valid point. That again goes back to what I was saying about like, for your own mental state, like, leave. I feel like you're just hurting yourself more. You're draining yourself. Why do you want to even still deal with this person? But again, I get Ariana. Why do I have to leave? This is my house. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I get both points. They're both valid points. Okay, Sheena needs to give it up with this whole like career in the music industry. Like, so she's recording like, I guess, a song for Emo Night, a different version of her Good as Gold song. And all I can say about that whole scene, it was just ridiculous when she started screaming into the mic. But I just need a man that's as supportive as Brock, because he was genuinely so supportive and like, that's my girl. And, I love this side to her. It's sexy. It's all of these things. And I'm like, okay, I mean, it's giving delusion. Like, I love it. He clearly loves her, and we love to see that. We love it. It's the blind leading the blind, but I thought it was really sweet, and I was like, oh my God, this guy really loves her. He really does. So Tom, they meet up. They have, I guess Sandoval was a little bit hurt because he went on Jax's podcast and said some things and whatnot. So they touch on that. I guess they hadn't talked. He was on tour, and I guess he went to film that reality show. So I think Schwartz was upset with him, because it's kind of like, you did all of this, the whole Scandal situation, then you left to tour, to do these reality shows, whatever it is, and you left me at the bar alone to deal with all of the backlash. And yeah, that's not necessarily what a good friend would do. I think Sandoval was trying to justify it by basically saying that he needed to go out and make money. Goes into their like mortgage, bank bills situation. He says that she hadn't paid the bills for 8 months, that he's had to pay for everything, and it's been like pulling teeth to get Ariana to like pay him back and all of this stuff. And in the after show, they go into it deeper. So apparently, I guess at a time, when they had to pay their mortgage and all of their bills together as a couple, they had this shared bank account, and they would use that bank account to pay the bills. and they would, I guess, put in every week or ever so often the same amount of money, each of them, I guess, so it was always equal. I've never shared bank accounts with a person, but I guess that's a good way to do it. But she does say that after they refinanced the house, that they no longer used, for whatever reason, they no longer used that shared bank account to pay the bills. They then only paid the bills from Sandoval's account. So the reason that she's saying that she didn't pay all of these bills and did all that, she's not denying she didn't do that, is because she says that she's asked him like many times for proof. She's like, I need an itemized breakdown of every single bill, and then I'll gladly give you the money. And he hasn't been able to provide that for whatever reason. She says that at this point she has nothing. Like, she's not going to believe him. Like, if he's just verbally like, hey, this costed this much, send me that money. Like, she's like, no. And I totally get her. I wouldn't trust him either. I'd be like, you're not going to play with my money. I don't know why. So he talks about how he had hired an accountant to do all of that. And it's like, why? It's not that easy to log into like PG&E and whatever service you're using to pay for your loan. You know, like, it's just like, I don't get why you had to hire an accountant to do all that. Just print out the bills and show them to her. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really not that hard. So Katie's kind of like, okay, well, do you have any actual proof that you were actually paying the mortgage? And Ariana's like, well, not since we refinanced, because after we refinanced, it was all getting taken out of his bank account, and I was only sending him like checks of random amounts of money for whatever he needed. But then she says that she later found out that she was paying the mortgage and she was overpaying. So clearly he wasn't being truthful about the finances. So that already, like, stealing from your partner is a whole other level. Like, I wouldn't, no. That would not fly. That's like, no. It's like, what kind of person are you? So we get into the Summer Moon situation. That's Sheena's daughter. I really like her name. Summer Moon. It's very cute. But I guess she's been having, some postpartum OCD, as she calls it. And ever since she's had her kid, she just doesn't trust anyone to watch her that's not like immediate family. And I think that really involves just her man, her mom, maybe. I don't know who else. But she gets this girl to come over, and I was very not clear on who this girl is. I think her name is Tori. And she said she's known her since she was like in her teens, and so she's open to having her watch her, and maybe that will kind of open the doors more for like a nanny to watch her and whatnot. I guess Brock seems to be having an issue with this because he's just kind of like, she's way too paranoid, and it seems to be affecting their relationship. I guess, he says that before Summer things were really different, and now like day-to-day tasks become so overwhelming that nothing gets done. I don't know. Maybe she needs to see a therapist. I don't know how you deal with that. I totally get her. I don't have kids, but I think that's something a lot of moms struggle with. Like, my sister actually just had her first baby, and she's just very much like on the same page about not wanting to put him in childcare until she's like, I need him to be able to speak before I have anyone who isn't family watching over him. I do get that. It's hard. Like, I feel like what's good for her is that she is, I'm assuming, in a good financial position to be able to afford childcare. It's more of like, she's paranoid that something bad will happen, and it's apparently not only with her but also with like her close loved ones. Like, I think she's just paranoid about, she's being really paranoid about bad things happening to the people she loves around her, which I don't know. I get very paranoid about that stuff too, but I think it's normal to an extent. I think for hers, it's she needs to work on it. But since the whole Scandival situation, I guess James and Tom haven't spoken much. So James ends up actually going to Sandoval's birthday party at his house. I guess he's expecting an apology. Allie goes with him in the car, but she's kind of like, I'm going to stay in the car and I'm not going to get out, and don't even tell him I'm here. And I'm like, that's literally something I would do. Cause it's like, I just have anxiety at that point. Like, I don't want to be seen. Allie touched on her like whole astrology career earlier. And I looked into her bookings a few months back, and she didn't have any open availability, and I was a little confused on how to book her. But then when I saw this episode, I was like, wait, let me go look at her availability again. And she has a thing, like, it doesn't let you schedule anything right now, but I guess her availability opens on the last or first Sunday of every month. I know it's the first Sunday, I think. Yeah, because I just missed it, I believe. Or maybe it's the last Sunday. Oh, shoot. I don't remember. But I'm like, okay, I need to put a reminder because I would like to book something with her. I find astrology very interesting. A lot of people either don't believe it or they do. And I believe in it. I'm a Capricorn and I am very much everything Capricorn. I'm like, period. That's me. That's literally how I am. So I would very much like to book something with her. It's a little expensive. It's like, I think almost $200, but I want to do it. So I don't know. I might just be booking something with Allie soon. So James makes it to Sandoval's party. They have this awkward, like, one-sided hug. So Sandoval kind of gets him a water and then goes off, I don't know, to talk to some people. And I guess he kind of leaves James standing around. And James apparently didn't know who any of these people were. So we have some guy, I don't know who he is, comes up and randomly starts talking to him about the whole situation. And he's just kind of like, who the fuck are you? James is honestly so funny. He's problematic, definitely. I mean, his problematic past. He has a mouth on him. He says things sometimes that are way out of pocket. But his commentary sometimes is funny. He's like, who the F is this guy? Like, why are you talking to me? The guy goes and gets Tom. He comes back and Tom's like, I think Tom was unaware of like how important or how, I don't know. I think James came there with a purpose, and I don't think Sandoval understood that he came there for specifically one thing, to hear him apologize. So they're kind of talking, and James is already visibly annoyed. So James very bluntly is like, so why didn't you reach out? You know, I need an apology and all this stuff. So you see Sandoval get a little upset as well, and he thinks it's a good time to bring up the situation with Kristen. I mean, he barely gets a word in about the situation, and James immediately gets up and leaves, and he's like, no, you're not about to bring up a situation from 10 years ago. And Sandoval's like, it wasn't even 10 years ago. And of course, producers cut to the reunion that literally says 10 years ago, I think 2013. Hilarious. Clearly it was 10 years ago. But again, while I understand how he could be having some kind of point by bringing that up, that was 10 years ago. Why are we touching on that situation in 2023? How does that situation, maybe he was trying to relate to the situation. I don't know. I'm not sure what he was trying to say, because James immediately walked away as soon as he began talking about that. It just goes to show you that he will make excuses after excuses for his behavior. It's like, you don't get to bring that up about your situation. This has nothing to do with that. We're 10 years removed from the situation. And so James decides to piss on the bushes outside, and Allie's in the car like, wait, like, those aren't just his bushes, they're also Ariana's. And so in the after show, they get into the situation a bit more, and Sandoval is basically saying how him and James were cool, and then all of a sudden him and Kristen break up, and James is sleeping with her. So he's kind of like talking about the betrayal of that, and I guess how he's held on to this, like he's never dealt with it. But it's like, but you guys were cool after that for many years. I mean, didn't Sandoval pay for the whole Coachella proposal to Rachel from James? Like, didn't he pay for that? Wasn't it like $10,000, if I remember correctly, like the whole thing? It's weird for Sandoval to bring that up now and say, well, I never dealt with it and all this stuff. Well, it seems like you did deal with it and like you were fine with it. And now because it fits your narrative, you're trying to bring it up to justify your actions. I don't know. But that was pretty much it. It doesn't make much sense. I'm excited to see what happens for the next few episodes. Rachel's definitely not going to be in this season from what I understand. Do I think she should come back? I don't know. It seems like a lot of the cast were kind of like, why didn't you come back? And I think for her, I don't know. I don't know that she'll come back anymore. She started her own podcast. I saw a TikTok the other day. She was like modeling at some event. So it seems like she's still doing the model thing. It seems like she wants nothing to do with Sandoval. Um, yeah, I think she should. I don't know. I think it's better for her to stay away for her own mental health and just, I don't know how long. I don't think it's a good idea for her to be around Sandoval. That's it for episode 2 of Vanderpump Rules. I'm doing this on a Saturday night. Probably won't get this uploaded till Sunday. And then we have a whole new week of Bachelor and Vanderpump Rules. I'd like to start doing recaps on Love Island, but I feel like Love Island All Stars. I'm just annoyed though because it's in the UK, so the episodes are way ahead in the UK, and they just became available on Peacock for anyone in the US watching. So I've seen a lot of things on TikTok that have already happened, and I'm like waiting for the drama, and I can't watch it because Peacock is annoyingly uploading one a day, but we're far behind. So the good juicy stuff still hasn't happened yet. So I don't know if I want to do recaps. It seems like a lot, especially because there's one you every day who can keep up. But it's so good this season. It's so good. If you liked this recap, please subscribe to my channel. Give my video a like. And I will be back for episode 3 and 4 and 5, 6, 7. Bye.